Bones aren't lost to time. They're lost to the morning you stop loading. You feel it when you step out of bed and the floor meets you a little harder than it used to. When your heels land without that old spring. When rising from a low chair becomes something you think about first. When a cough or a sneeze makes you brace without knowing why. When you grip a railing going downstairs, not because you need to, but because something in you has decided that stairs require a railing now. When you catch yourself scanning a restaurant for a chair with armrests. When you realize you've been sleeping on your back for 3 years because rolling onto your side sends something in the spine into a protest that takes most of the morning to settle. You've been explaining all of this to yourself as age, and age is doing almost none of the work. There are 2 men in Denver. Robert is 64. He retired 2 years ago from the fire department after 33 years of physical work and assumed the work would carry on. He walked. He went to the gym twice a week. He took calcium and vitamin D every morning. His last DEXA scan came back at 2.8. His orthopedic told him that if he falls, the hip breaks before he hits the floor. Nothing is changing. Dennis is 67. He spent his career as an accountant. Desk, chair, screen, repeat for 40 years. He never played sports after his 30s. His last DEXA came back at +0.4, above the average for a man 20 years younger. His doctor asked him what he was doing. He said he gets up and moves before anything else every morning. The doctor wrote it off. The doctor was wrong to write it off. The difference between Robert and Dennis is not calcium, it's not testosterone, it's not genetics. It's one variable that almost no one in Western medicine talks about. When the load happens relative to when you wake up. A 68-year-old monk at Drepung Monastery in Karnataka does 108 prostrations before 5 in the morning. His spine stacks straight. His wrists absorb his full body weight. His T-score sits above the average 30-year-olds. Not genetics, not calcium. 30 minutes done in a window most Western men sleep through. Here's the window. Between the moment you open your eyes and the end of your first half-hour wake, your cortisol rises 50 to 160% above its overnight low. That spike activates the exact cells that break bone down. For roughly 90 minutes after you wake, bone-resorbing activity runs hotter than it does at any other point in the day. If you load your skeleton during that window, you tell the body to build. If you don't, the body breaks and the building never comes. Right now, stand up. Lift 1 foot off the floor. Don't touch a wall. Don't hold anything. Count in your head. Keep it loose. Look forward. Breathe normally. When you lose balance, stop counting and remember the number. Under 10 seconds means fracture risk doubles over the next 5 years. Over 30 seconds means the chain is still intact. That number is your baseline for the next 30 days. Write it down before you forget it. Here is what is actually happening in the first hour after you wake. Bone is not a rock. Bone is a living negotiation between 2 cells. 1 cell builds, 1 cell breaks down, and every single day they renegotiate. Which one wins depends almost entirely on signal. Mechanical load tells the building cell to work. Silence tells the breaking cell to work. The body takes the vote and acts on it. Now add cortisol. When you wake, cortisol doesn't just give you energy. It flips a genetic switch inside the marrow that produces a molecule called rankle, which is the direct order to destroy bone. At the same time, it reduces the molecule that protects against destruction. The net effect for that first hour is a body biased every single morning toward breaking bone down. Every morning for the rest of your life unless you interrupt it. The interrupt signal is impact, not heavy weights, not long walks 2 hours after coffee. Impact measured as 1 and 1 to 2 times body weight coming through a bone in a short, sharp event. Endocrine Reviews published this mechanism in 2007, confirming that morning glucocorticoid release directly stimulates the formation of bone-resorbing cells. The Journal of Bone and Mineral Research documented in 1987 that 1 and 1 to 2 times body weight of impact through a bone is what triggers the building response in the spongy interior, where fractures usually start. Here is the part that should make you angry. You've probably been told that your bone loss is about calcium, or estrogen, or aging. All of those play a role, but none of them explain why a 67-year-old accountant in Denver has the bone density of a 45-year-old, while a retired firefighter 3 streets over is shopping for hip replacement surgeons. The difference is the signal. The difference is the morning. The difference is whether your skeleton gets told to build before the cortisol window closes. The supplement industry will sell you calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, collagen peptides, and boron. Some of that matters at the margins. None of it changes the fundamental daily negotiation between osteoblasts and osteoclasts. You cannot supplement your way out of a body that receives a destruction signal every morning and nothing to counter it. The monks don't take supplements, they load. There is a reason their spines look the way they do at 68, and it has nothing to do with what's in the pill organizer on the nightstand. The other thing nobody tells you is that the calcium you're swallowing cannot find its way into the bone matrix without the mechanical signal that tells the body where to put it. Calcium without load is like building materials delivered to a construction site where nobody has been given orders to build. The materials sit, they calcify in arteries, they pass through. The order to build, the actual instruction to the osteoblast to lay down new matrix, comes from mechanical stress on the bone, not from the bloodstream, not from the supplement, from the load. This is why the prostrations matter. This is why the heel drops matter. This is why the monks who do this have T-scores that confuse their doctors, while the men taking 3 calcium tablets a day keep getting worse scan results every 2 years. The monks at Drepung did not know these words. They did know that loading before sunrise produced old men whose spines didn't collapse. They knew it the way any tradition knows something that works, because the men who did it outlasted the men who didn't. That morning stiffness you feel isn't wear. It's a system of cells waiting for the signal you've been sleeping through. Here are the 5 practices that close the window. The first practice is a modified prostration done immediately on waking. Your ancestors on every continent rose and moved against gravity before food. Every culture that produced healthy old people had some version of this. A morning prayer that required kneeling. A ritual that put the body on the floor and brought it back up. A form that loaded the skeleton before the first meal. Tibetan practice formalized it into a full-body signal that loads the wrists, the hips, the spine, and the shoulders in one motion. It is not a religious practice for our purposes. It is a mechanical solution to a biological problem. When you stop doing anything like this, the large, long bones of your legs and the trabecular interior of your spine lost their morning wake-up call. The interior of the vertebra is where 60% of age-related fractures begin, and it is the exact tissue that responds to short bursts of impact. A compression fracture in the thoracic spine doesn't come from one bad fall. It comes from years of vertebral bodies that never got the signal to consolidate. The morning is where that signal lives. The Journal of Bone and Mineral Research found that ground reaction forces of 1 and 102 times body weight were enough to stimulate trabecular bone formation. A prostration done with any speed generates more than that. You weigh 180 lb. The force moving through your wrists and hips when you drop into a prostration is well above the threshold. Done 30 times in 3 minutes, that is 30 loading events through your most vulnerable architecture before you've had your first cup of anything. Stand straight, feet together. Raise your hands over your head. Bring them to your chest, then to your forehead, then bend at the knees and lower your body forward. Placing your palms on the floor, then your forearms, then your chest. Your knees land. Your hands land flat. You feel the load across the wrists, through the hips, along the lower back. That is correct. If you feel it only in your shoulders, your hands aren't bearing weight. Press harder through the palms. Breathe out on the way down, in on the way up. 3 rounds of 10. Total time, 3 minutes. Week 1, go slow. 10 smooth repetitions. Week 2, add rhythm without speed. Week 3, 3 sets of 10 with 30 seconds between. Week 4, the movement becomes automatic and the 30-second rest disappears. If your wrists cannot tolerate flat palms, close them into fists, knuckles down, or place a yoga block under each hand. The modification keeps the load moving through the wrist architecture without putting the joint in a position it can't handle yet. The second practice is the heel drop, done barefoot on a hard floor, 4 minutes after you complete the prostrations. Humans evolved walking and running on hard ground. Shoes with cushioned heels were not part of that. Every step used to send a vibration from heel through ankle, shin, knee, and hip. That vibration was what your bones used to measure the world. The skeleton is not passive. It is constantly listening for information about the environment it operates in. When the ground sends impact, the bone hears it as a reason to stay dense. When the ground sends nothing because you're walking on carpet and cushioned shoes, the bone hears silence and responds accordingly. When your feet stop reporting, the skeleton stops responding. The trabecular architecture in the hip, the femoral neck, and the lumbar spine is tuned for that exact repeated ground signal, and it starves without it. This is not a small effect. Hip fractures in sedentary populations cluster in people who have spent decades on soft surfaces. The epidemiology has been there since the 90s. Nobody changed the recommendations. Before the practice, a quick diagnostic. Rise onto your toes, hold for a second. Let your heels drop fast and hard. You should feel a clean vibration travel heel to skull. If the vibration stops at the knee, the bone inside is already porous enough that it is absorbing rather than transmitting. That tells you something important about where you're starting. Barefoot, hard floor, no mat. Feet flat, hip width apart. Rise high on the balls of your feet, as high as you can. Pause for half a second at the top. Drop your heels hard. Not a soft landing, a drop. You should feel the shock travel from heel through shin into hip. If you feel it only in your calves, you're cushioning with the front of your foot. Drop from higher. 50 drops total. Rest if your shins start to burn. That burn is muscle, not bone. Week 1, 25 drops. Week 2, 50. Week 3, 50 with more height. Week 4, add a small hop at the top before dropping. If your knees complain, switch to firm heel strike walking for the first 2 weeks, then reintroduce drops gradually. The knee discomfort usually means the impact is landing in the joint rather than transmitting through the bone. Reducing range and rebuilding from there solves it in almost every case. The third practice is the barefoot impact walk, done for 10 minutes on a hard surface inside the window when cortisol peaks. Your great-grandfather walked on packed earth and cobblestone and thin leather. Every step sent proprioceptive data, tiny corrections, tiny loads, into the bones of his feet and shins. That data kept the nervous system's balance map sharp and the skeletal architecture dense. Balance is not just muscle. It is a conversation between the sole of the foot and the cerebellum, updated thousands of times per day. That tells the nervous system exactly where the body is in space. When that conversation goes quiet, the map degrades. The map degrading is how a healthy man trips on a flat surface and lands wrong and breaks a hip. When you put on cushioned shoes for every step after age 40, 2 things collapsed at once. Your balance chain lost its training reps. Your skeleton lost its daily loading messages. Fall risk doubles. Hip fracture risk compounds. The cushioned shoe is one of the most consequential inventions of the 20th century for aging men, and not in the way the shoe companies would prefer you to think about it. A quick pause before practice 3. I want to show you something. Everything in this video is the morning opener. The Western Monk Protocol is the full system, a 154-page PDF that takes these 5 practices and organizes them into a daily rhythm with 3 things this video doesn't have. The first is a 30-day tracker with exact rep, time, and sensation targets for each day, so you know whether you're on curve. The second is the eating and sleep stack that supports bone building while you're loading. What to eat within that first hour, what to stop eating after dark, the specific protein windows. The third is printable wall cards for the bathroom and the bedroom, so the practices don't depend on memory on a tired morning. If you're watching this on your TV right now, scan the QR code on the screen and you'll have the full protocol in under 60 seconds. On your phone or computer, the link is in the description below. Now, practice 3. Back to the barefoot walk. 10 minutes, hard surface, tile, wood, concrete, packed dirt, even a sidewalk. Not carpet, not grass. Feet bare or in the thinnest socks you own. Walk at a normal pace. Let the heel land first, then the outside of the foot, then the ball, then the toes roll off. Feel the ground report back to you. If you feel discomfort in the sole of the foot, slow down. Your foot muscles have been turned off for a long time, and they need to wake up before they can carry load. You should feel the slight sting of cool floor and the small variations in surface under the arch. That feedback is the whole point. The discomfort in the first week is not injury. It is a foot that has been in a cast for 20 years and is being asked to work again. Pay attention to what the floor is telling you. Grout lines between tiles, the slight give of wood versus the hardness of concrete, the temperature differential between a rug edge and a bare floor. Your foot is reading all of this, sending it up through the ankle, the shin, the knee, the hip, into the cerebellum, and updating the nervous system's map of where you are in space. That map is what keeps you upright when you step off a curb you didn't see clearly. That map is what lets you catch yourself when you trip. The map degrades when the foot stops getting data. The barefoot walk is how you restore the data stream. Week 1, 5 minutes. Week 2, 8. Week 3, 10. Week 4, 10 minutes plus a soft 30-second jog at the end if your knees tolerate it. If your feet cramp in the first days, ease back to 5 minutes and do a minute of toe spreads before starting. Spread each toe away from its neighbor, hold for 5 seconds, release. Do that 10 times. The intrinsic muscles of the foot atrophy faster than almost any other muscle group in the body, and they need a week or two to come back online before they can carry the full 10 minutes comfortably. The fourth practice is the spine loading hold, done at minute 18 of the morning for 15 minutes. Monks at Dripung sit for hours every morning on cushions with no backrest. The spine stacks vertebra over vertebra, and gravity compresses it along the natural curve. That compression is the exact signal the vertebral column uses to rebuild itself. It sounds almost too simple. You sit without a backrest and your spine gets denser, but the mechanism is real and the research is unambiguous. The vertebral body is loaded trabecular bone. It responds to compression the same way the hip responds to impact with a building signal. Remove the compression as every modern chair does, and the signal disappears. Most men in their 60s have not sat for 15 minutes without back support in decades. Chairs, car seats, sofas, office posture, all of them deload the spine, not partially, almost entirely. The lumbar spine in a reclining office chair carries almost no compressive load. The vertebral bodies stop receiving the cue to build. That is why the spine is where age steals height first. The average man loses between 1 and 2 and of height between 60 and 80. That is not the disc drying out. That is the vertebral bodies themselves compressing under loads they were never prepared to resist because the building signal was taken away one ergonomic chair at a time. The Journal of Bone and Mineral Research has shown that sustained vertebral compression in an erect posture produces measurable bone formation markers within weeks in previously deloaded spines. Weeks, not months, not years. The body responds faster than most people expect when the signal finally arrives. Sit on a firm surface, a wooden chair, a hard cushion, the floor with a folded blanket under your sit bones. No backrest. Feet flat on the floor. Stack your ribs over your pelvis. Pull the crown of your head toward the ceiling. You should feel effort between your shoulder blades and along the deep muscles on either side of the spine. If you feel it only in your lower back, your pelvis has tipped. Lift the front of your pelvis slightly and let the spine settle above it. Use this time for your morning tea reading or quiet thinking. 15 minutes. Week 1, 5 minutes. Week 2, 8. Week 3, 12. Week 4, 15. If your lower back screams, place a rolled towel under your sit bones, not your tailbone, to restore the lumbar curve passively. The rolled towel changes the angle of the pelvis without requiring muscular effort, and the lower back pain usually resolves within 3 days. The fifth practice is the integration sequence itself. The 5 habits chained as one 30-minute unit rather than scattered through the day. Monks don't do prostrations at 7 ashun, heel drops at noon, and sitting practice in the afternoon. They run the whole sequence before sunrise in a single unbroken rhythm. The reason is biological. All 5 practices must land inside the cortisol awakening response to change the signal. Spread them out, and the loading happens after the window has closed. The window doesn't wait. It opens when you open your eyes and it starts closing 30 minutes later. By 90 minutes, it is shut. Everything that happens after that is maintenance at best. Stanford endocrinology work on the cortisol awakening response with over 500 participants tracked across multiple studies confirm the window is sharp. Peak at 30 minutes, return to baseline by 90. You either load inside 90 minutes or you don't load that day. This is why the monks who do this for decades end up with the bone density of men half their age, while men who exercise for an hour every afternoon at the gym see modest improvements at best. The gym hour is real work, but it happens outside the window. The signal lands in quiet tissue. The morning sequence lands in tissue that is primed, awake, and waiting. Wake up. Put bare feet on the floor. Before you drink, before you check your phone, before you open a curtain, begin. 3 rounds of 10 prostrations at minute 0 through 3. Walk to your hard floor spot. 50 heel drops at minute 4 through 8. Walk for 10 minutes barefoot on hard ground, inside or outside, minute 8 through 18. Return to a firm seat with no backrest. Sit erect with your morning tea or in silence for 15 minutes, minute 18 through 33. That is the sequence. That is the whole morning. That is what monks have done before breakfast for 300 years. Week 1, compress. Do a shorter version of each practice until the sequence flows. Week 2, hit full time on every practice. Week 3, remove gaps. Week 4, the whole 33 minutes moves as one thing. If any piece is still painful at week 4, you're skipping the modifications. Go back and apply them. Here is the whole morning in one string. First 3 minutes, 10 prostrations. Minute 4 through 8, 50 barefoot heel drops. Minute 8 through 18, 10 minutes of barefoot walking on a hard floor. Minute 18 through 33, 15 minutes of erect sitting with no back support. 30 minutes total, done in the first hour after waking. What you should feel after the full sequence is not exhaustion. You should feel warm, stacked, and slightly more awake than coffee used to make you. Your feet should report the ground for the rest of the day. Your lower back should feel longer, not sore. If you feel exhausted, you went too hard, too fast. Cut every practice in half and build back up over 2 weeks. Track this every morning for 30 days. By day 10, the pattern emerges. The prostrations stop being a struggle. The heel drops stop ringing. The sit stops fighting you. By day 30, your one-leg stand time is moved. By day 90, the cascade inside is different. You won't feel it dramatically. You'll feel it as ground under your feet that reports back more clearly, as stairs that require less thought, as mornings that start easier than they used to, as the sense that your body is working with you instead of against you. That is the signal changing. That is osteoblast activity running ahead of osteoclast activity for the first time in years. By year 1, your DXA won't show it yet, but the trajectory has been altered. The monks of Drepung run this for 30 years. The compound effect is the whole point. Bone density is not built in a month. It is built in the daily repetition of a signal that the body eventually stops questioning and simply acts on. There is no dramatic moment when you know it's working. There is just a Tuesday morning when you get out of bed and don't think about it. When you step off the curb and your ankle handles it without deliberation. When you're carrying something heavy up a flight of stairs and you notice partway up that you're not thinking about the stairs. Those moments don't announce themselves. They just show up one day as normal, which is what they always should have been. You are not old. You are a body that has been waiting for the morning signal nobody told you to send. 3 problems will come up, and all 3 have simple fixes. If your wrists hurt in the prostrations, you are bearing weight on an angle the wrist isn't built for. Close your hands into fists and land on your knuckles, or place a yoga block under each palm to raise the hand above the wrist. The pain disappears in one session. If your knees ache after heel drops, the shock is bypassing the trabecular bone and hitting the joint. Stop heel drops for 2 weeks. Do firm heel strike walking on a hard floor instead. When you reintroduce the drops, start with 10 and add 5 per week. If your lower back fatigues in the erect sit before 5 minutes, your pelvis is posterior tilted and your vertebrae are sitting on ligaments. Roll a towel and place it under your sit bones, not your tailbone. This lifts the front of the pelvis and the lumbar curve returns on its own. Start at 5 minutes and build to 15 over 4 weeks. None of these fixes are workarounds. They are the way in. Bones aren't lost to time. They're lost to the morning you stop loading. Starting tomorrow, the first half hour of your day does what 30 years of sitting took from you. That one leg stand you did at the start of this video, write the number down. Test again in 30 days. If you run the sequence daily, expect the number to climb 40 to 50%. If you run it for 90 days, expect the number to double. Two things before you stop watching. Tonight, set a hard floor space by your bed. Clear a rectangle big enough for a prostration and a set of drops. Put it there now before you go to sleep so that tomorrow morning the space is ready and the decision is already made. The hardest part of any morning practice is the moment between lying down and standing up. Remove every barrier you can from that moment. The floor space is one of them. Tomorrow morning, before you reach for your phone, stand up and do 3 prostrations. Just 3. Start the window. 1 warning. Good loading feels like distributed effort across many places at once. Pain that lands sharp on a single spot, a joint, a disc, a tendon, is a different signal. Stop that practice and modify. If this made the morning make sense, subscribe. Drop your leg stand number in the comments. We're tracking this together. And share this with one man over 60 who still thinks calcium is the answer. The body doesn't forget how to build bone. It just needs to hear the signal before the sun does. If this story changes the way you view the strength of your own frame, please subscribe and like the channel. We are uncovering the biological truths that have been overlooked for decades. Build your foundation. The next treasure of health will be revealed soon.